How's it going, everyone? In this video, I want to do something that I did a long time back, but I haven't brought it back for whatever reason, and that's looking at the recent game releases and looking at the lay of the land as far as pricing goes and how much you should be paying for some of the newly released games. Now, we're mostly going to be looking at games that dropped in 2021, but I do want to cover a couple of other titles from 2020 quickly, but mostly we're going to talk 2021 games. Off the top, let's first go over the games that have held up in price, and really you're looking at two primary games from the PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5 side of things, that being Ratchet and Clank. Now, Ratchet and Clank just came out in early June. Some games do get discounted quickly, but a month and a half isn't enough time for a PS5 game to get discounted. Truth be told, I see Ratchet and Clank holding up in price for quite a while, and if it does get a discount, at most, I can see a $10 discount as we head into the fall, because this is one of the premier PlayStation 5 games, and I think what Sony is gonna do is try to keep some of those games at a $70 threshold until you get to the next major PlayStation 5 release or PlayStation 4 PS5 cross-gen title. Now, Ghost of Tsushima is coming out next month. Does that mean Ratchet and Clank might go down because then they're gonna have another $70 game on the market? I don't necessarily think so, because Ghost of Tsushima obviously is a re-release with new content. So I personally think Ratchet and Clank is gonna hold for a while, especially with the reviews being top-notch, and with it being one of the premier games that people are buying a PS5 for at this stage of the game. Another game that has held, and this isn't all too surprising to me, Ys 9 is still at that $60 price point. I believe it went down $10 to $50 for a minute, but then it jumped right back up to $60. So this is one that I foresee holding up in price for quite a while. Games like this, especially from NIS, they just hold up for a long time, and that's because it does target such a specific audience that are super into these games, and they're gonna drop that $60. Again, I could see a discount in the fall, but yeah, this being, 4 months old at this stage of the game, 5 months old actually, and still being $60, definitely one of the standouts as far as holding up in price, and, people did really enjoy this game. I personally really enjoyed the game, but yeah, this is one that was kind of to be expected. Okay, so those are the two games, the primary titles that have held up in price. Scarlet Nexus is even seeing a discount. It's like $10 off pretty regularly now, and that just came out at the end of June, so it kind of goes to show how quickly things get discounted. Nevertheless, now, let's quickly cover some games from 2020, late 2020. So all the Ubisoft games, Watch Dogs Legion is literally $10, which at this point with Ubisoft and game price reductions, we're playing a game of how low can you get and how fast is it gonna get that low, because Watch Dogs Legion being $10 in what, 9 months? I mean, 9 months is a relatively lengthy period of time, but $10 for Watch Dogs Legion, and that is used on GameFly. But even new, you can find it for like $15, $17, which is crazy to me. Like, this is a AAA release from Ubisoft from less than a year ago. I mean, 3/4 of a year, and it's already down to $10 to $15, which is wild. Same thing with their other major releases. Assassin's Creed Valhalla, you can pick it up $18 used at GameFly right now, and I would not be spending more than like $23 on it, maybe $25 for a new copy, but that's absolute max. And you talk about an IP with what you would think a lot of appeal, like Assassin's Creed, for it to be down to $25, again, unexpected because it's Ubisoft and their games get discounted so quickly, but I still find it kind of, a little insane. And Immortals Fenyx Rising, same story with this one. This one came out back in December, so a little bit more of a recent release, but $18 threshold on GameFly, then, don't be spending more than $20, $25 on it for a new copy at this point. I really liked Immortals Fenyx Rising, but I don't think that game did well at all from a commercial standpoint, and I was kind of predicting that going in, but yeah, that is a good game, and at some point, if you see it on stores, $20, $25, do check it out, because it's a game I think you guys are going to enjoy. A couple of PS5 titles, Demon's Souls Remake, that, at this point, GameFly will sell it used for $45, but you're still paying a premium for that. I expect that to be the case with a lot of PS5 games that are PS5 exclusives. They're going to hold up in price for quite a while. Spider-Man Miles Morales, on the other hand, is going a little bit lower. We saw it as low as $30, I believe, and then that Ultimate Edition was up to $50. The Ultimate Edition obviously includes the Spider-Man Definitive Edition on PS5, which that version looks great. Miles Morales, at this point, if you haven't picked it up, I would say wait for it to get a little bit cheaper. Like $20 I think is a good pickup for a standalone expansion like this at this point, unless you're one of those guys that are picking up games day one and you're just a big fan. But these smaller standalone expansions are the games that I think Sony are going to be a little bit more willing to put on sale. Like Ghost of Tsushima Director's Cut Edition, I could see that going on sale later this year because it's a re-release at the end of the day. They just want to sell more copies of the game. I don't see that holding $70 for that long, but maybe I'll be wrong about that. But yeah, Demon's Souls Remake and Miles Morales slowly getting a little bit cheaper. Some other releases to talk about from this year. Now let's get into the big releases from this year. Outriders is getting pretty cheap pretty quickly. We're seeing it new for $35 to $40. Used, Gamefly has it right now for $25. This game is making some improvements. I know everybody bashed it when it came out, but they're sticking with it, and if it's a game you want to pick up and play cooperatively with some friends, you can have some fun with it. At this point, I would just wait for it to get cheaper and cheaper. It's a game that's on Game Pass at the end of the day. So they probably got a nice check from Microsoft regardless on that side of things, but for PlayStation, obviously, you would have to buy the game. But yeah, $25 used, around $35 to $40 new these days. Again, I would personally say wait for it to get a little bit cheaper. Nier Replicant, obviously, this was a release that I was super excited for, and I was expecting it to hold in price for a little bit. It is down to $40, so $40 new, and you can get it $30 used. So it is coming down in price a little bit quicker than I had initially thought. But at the end of the day, it is a remake or a remastering, whatever you want to call it. It does have some new content, but, you know, I was a big fan of the game, but I love the world of Nier. I love the story. The gameplay is not as good as Automata, so you gotta keep that in mind. But Replicant going cheaper and cheaper. $40 I still don't think is a low enough price because I have to be objective about the game and assess it as it is. I think if you can get it $30 new, or if you're okay with a used copy, $30 at that threshold, it's pretty good, and I would say pick it up then. $40, still a little bit too pricey for me, especially at this point now that we're a few months removed. Resident Evil Village is an interesting one, so you can get it used $35 to $40. I believe Gamefly has it right now for $38. Remember, the PS4, PS5 version of the game, same price across the board, so that's nice at least. New, it's a game that's going to retain in price for quite a while. It gets that $10 discount on Amazon from time to time where it's $50. That might actually be live right now, but for the most part, you're not getting it cheaper than $50 right now, unless you're buying like the PC version from like a Green Man Gaming or something like that. But yeah, $50 to $60 for a game that is, at the end of the day, you know, not the lengthiest game in the world, is going to turn some people off. But I absolutely love Resident Evil Village. I mean, it's a game that came out this year that I've already completed twice. And I usually don't play through games twice, especially right after release. But Resident Evil Village was a game that I absolutely adored. And I think, you know, it's one of those games that, even though it's on the shorter side of things, it's so good, it's at such a high level that I would still say, you know, drop $50 on it. But if you've already waited this long, hey, it's not going to kill you to wait until the fall and get it at a more reasonable price, especially if you are worried from a content side of things. Hitman 3, this came out in January, and at this point doesn't have a lot of buzz surrounding it. You can get it for $20 used, man. Yeah, it's going that low already, and, you know, from everything I've heard, it's really good. I haven't played enough of it to really give you guys a definitive opinion, but if it's going down to $20, that's a pretty telltale sign of either the game's not doing well, or it's just getting discounted very quickly. Sometimes these publishers just discount their games really quickly. I mean, I'm sure AC Valhalla sold well, but yeah, it just gets discounted. But Hitman 3, again, if you want to check it out, don't be paying more than $20, $25 for it at this stage of the game. Oh, to circle back to a couple games from last year, just to cover them quickly. Cyberpunk 2077, man, this has been a story covering this game's price, because I've been covering it month by month, and yeah, you're looking at paying $13 at times for this game used. $13 for what was a game that so many people were looking forward to in 2020, myself included. I was looking forward to it, but I definitely had the thought in the back of my head after all those delays, man, this could end up being a train wreck. Now, obviously, for the PlayStation 4 version of the game, if you're playing it on a PS4, $13 may not even be worth it. It probably ain't, but if you have a PS5, it runs much better on the PS5. Still has loads of bugs, glitches, but hey, at $13, like if you're paying $13 to $17 for Cyberpunk 2077, that's used, by the way, or like, you know, it's available like $20, $25 new, I would just pick up a used copy for like $15 and call it a day and see what the fuss is about. At some point, it's gonna get a full-on upgrade on PlayStation 5, and it's gonna run a lot better, and it looks like CDPR is gonna try to make the game better. But yeah, wild that in the span of, you know, less than 8 months, the most anticipated game of 2020 is literally in the bargain bin. Like, I don't think anyone saw that coming. Like, I had the expectation that it was gonna be potentially a bit of a train wreck, but I did not think bargain bin in less than a year. I was not expecting that at all. And we're talking about this game depreciating in price quicker than some of those Ubisoft releases, which is just wild to think about. Another one that's depreciated in price very quickly, Marvel's Avengers from last year. That came out in September, so it's been a while, but you're literally buying the game for $13 on Gamefly as well, or like, you know, 15 to 20 new. So yeah, that's a game that's skyrocketing wouldn't be the right word, but you guys get the idea. It's just tumbled in price very, very quickly. But again, the quality level of that game was something that a lot of people questioned. Okay, moving on, circling back to games from this year, Mass Effect Legendary Edition is another game that for the most part has has really held up in price. This came out back in May, so it has been quite a while. Used copies, you can get them for sub 40 bucks, like 38 I believe on GameFly is the price right now, which is pretty good. I mean, this one I expect to hold in price for a little bit, just because it's 3 games that people have such an affinity towards. Mass Effect 2 to many is considered one of the best games of all time, and yeah, I just don't see it going much lower than its retail price that quickly. Maybe it'll be 40 bucks in the fall, but that's really the lowest I see it going. Biomutin, obviously, this game was not very good. I enjoyed it a lot more than most people, truth be told. Like, I had my fun with Biomutin. I just found the game kind of charming at times. The voice acting, the narration in this game is atrocious, and it's going for like $40, like 38-ish used. Still not worth it. This is a game that if you want to buy it, sub 20 bucks is the only way you can recommend it. There's no other way to recommend Biomutin unless it's sub $20. But yeah, definitely another game to follow as far as price point is concerned. Probably by the fall, I foresee it hitting that $20 price threshold. Lastly, Returnal. Returnal just came out back in April 30th, I believe, so it's been less than 3 months. $50 is what the game's falling to. It's a game that has turned a lot of people off. Like, it's got some issues with it, and it's a very, very challenging game that's just going to frustrate a lot of people when they have to repeat runs, and obviously it's a very punishing game. So if you haven't picked it up at this point, honestly, I would say wait for it to get a little bit cheaper. Like, if you can find it for $35, like $35, I think that'll be a really good pickup. It's going to be interesting to follow these $70 games, you know, for the next year and a half to see how quickly they fall in price. Like, are they going to uphold a $70 price point? Because we've seen it. Now, the first discount these games are seeing is to $60, and then they'll go down to $50, and then ultimately, how quickly thereafter are they going to go down to $30 to $40? We really don't know at this stage of the game, because Demon's Souls Remake, cheapest you're going to get that for is $50. Miles Morales was a standalone expansion, and the base game was only $50, so that's not something you can assess really. Returnal is going to be a good example of that, where it was a game that was a little bit of a lower key release, so I could see it falling down to $40 or $35 by the fall, but again, this is uncharted territory as far as $70 game prices a year after the fact, especially with a lower key game like Returnal, comparatively speaking to Demon's Souls Remake, which those Souls games in general just hold up in price for a long time, so that doesn't surprise me at all that it's still $50. But that's gonna wrap up this one. Hopefully you guys found this video a little insightful. I enjoy following game prices, so stay locked, and I'll always give you guys updates. I'm gonna try to do something like this every month or two, probably every 2 months, so we can really see some fluctuations in pricing. So that's gonna wrap it up for me, and let me know all of your thoughts in the comment section down below. I am out. Goodbye.